Great. First of all, my name is Abisola. I started WeViz in 2019, I think. Yeah. And I started it because when I got into like data visualization, I realized that a lot of the communities were very focused on like software engineering and software development. And I didn't really see like a lot of things for data people. So that's why I started this. And when we started, we used to do like physical meetups just to get together, get people started with Tableau. I'm pretty biased towards Tableau because, of course, I'm a Tableau Zen master. So yeah, I have a slight bias towards Tableau. But yeah, people used to get together. We would go to like, we had different office locations. We'll meet up. We'll do like visathons, put people in groups. We had new joiners, right? Newbies that never used Tableau before, pretty much experienced people as well. So just put them into like different groups and they get like projects. Do you get, they have like a project for the day. And to be honest, that experience gives people an insight into what data is, right? What they can do like with a tool, how they can use that to communicate insights, right? And that really went well. We had like 4 physical meetups in 2019 up until 2020 when the pandemic hit. And then in 2020, we moved to like online virtual events. And then we did about 3 sessions, but we haven't had anything in 2021 because I mean, life took over, but I'm really trying to get things back on track. So that's why I decided to start with this session, speaking with data leaders, that just to give like a bit of insight into what does this even mean, right? We talk about like the practical things like, do a Tableau project or do a project, find data, analyze it, share your project, share how you came about it. But okay, that's a project. But what does it look like in industry, right? So that's why I thought let's get 3 people across different industries, right? Across different backgrounds as well. We have people that have gone from business analysts to leading like data science teams. Dr. Dumibi's got a PhD in machine learning, right? And he currently heads like data science for Cobalt 360 logistics firm. I'll still do like another intro for all the speakers, right? So it would be great to hear from them, see how they started, right? Get a bit more about their journey, know what really happens like in industry, what kind of projects do companies use data for, right? How does it contribute to their bottom line? Is it even important, right? And how do you grow, right? Yemisi has gone from being a business analyst to data engineering and data architects, right? What does that even mean in real life? So that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about today. Just give me a moment. Let me check that our Dr. Dumebi and Olanrewaju are here. I'm not sure yet.
Well, I'm Ola Charles.
Oh, okay, you're here. Great, sorry. So we're just waiting for Dr. Dumebi to join. Give me a moment. Let me see if I can get him on the phone. I guess we can just start. Grace, can you hear me? Yeah, you can turn on the music a bit. So I'll start with intros while we wait for the last speaker to join. We have Olanrewaju and Yemisi here already. So we'll just start. So I've given a brief intro about WeViz, and I'm going to introduce the speakers as well. right? So just give me a second. We have Oluwayemisi. She's currently a data architect at Venture Garden Group, and she's had like an experience. She started her career in telecoms as a business analyst, and then headed data engineering in a Konga, that's e-commerce, right? So she's going to tell us about her journey. We also have Olanrewaju as well, who started as a business analyst in lending, right? And now he's in insurance, leading a data science team. So we're going to start with Yemisi. Do you want to start us off? Sorry for that. Yemisi, do you want to go ahead? Just give us a brief history about your journey, how you started. Yeah, pretty much. Just tell us about your journey.
All right. Thank you, Abisola. Good afternoon, everyone. So, yes, my journey in data has been interesting. As Abisola said, I started off within the telecoms industry, and I think for me, that was one of the best. Can you hear me clearly? All right.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so because, you know, the telecoms industry is one of the industries you do on the network generates, you know, some data. So they had like huge amounts of data. I was data analyst for a brief moment, but I was lucky that, you know, when I started working with Airtel then, they actually started a data warehousing project. So that was my introduction to data. And, you know, I pretty much got to see the end to end of the process, from gathering requirements from your customers to dealing with the actual data, looking at, you know, trying to architect the data warehouse, looking at ETL process, just basically a great, you know, understanding then of what it took to get from the raw data being generated by the activities of people to actionable intelligence that the organization could use. And then from there, I went on to work with Etisalat, still, you know, in the capacity of a data analyst, data specialist. And, you know, at some point, I just wanted to switch it up. And that was what led to my move to Konga, an e-commerce firm. And yeah, you'd see that, okay, in that case, I was a data engineer. And I guess as we go on, we'll get to speak about all the nomenclature that describes, you know, different jobs within the data space. But yeah, so there again, getting there, yeah, they already had some structure in terms of what they wanted to do with data and all. But, you know, we had to switch it up and create something more standard. Again, going on to actually creating a data warehouse for them. And from Konga, I went on to work with, I'm presently working with Venture Garden Group, which is a group of companies that, you know, is at Ikeja. We have organizations within the group that service the aviation industry, work within education and, you know, finance, fintech and all. So here we're dealing with data in various forms from various industries, and that's where data architecture has now come in to look at, okay, even within these specific industries, how do we want to manage our data? How do we capture it? And, you know, dealing with the entire data lifecycle, not just using it at the point at which it's being created, but starting to talk about the entire data management lifecycle. So that's a short intro for me. Thank you.
Okay. There's some terms that you used that I'm sure, like, I mean, not everyone might be familiar with. So we're going to come back to that. You talked about data warehousing, ETLs. So you're going to explain it for us in the simplest and, like, we're 5 years old, right?
Sure.
So yeah,
no problem.
we're definitely going to come back to that. Olanrewaju, do you want to go ahead with an intro?
Hey, thank you, Bisola. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, it's not yet the time to. I'm happy to meet someone today. I'm happy to meet Oluwayemisi. I hope I will have the time to, you know, share why. So let me talk about my background. Well, oftentimes people take me to be a data analyst or a data scientist. But my love for data started while I was in the university. And I've led a lot of initiatives then. I've started working with data back in 2013, 2014. And when I came into the corporate settings, I started with education. I was at the university for 1 year, wanted to go the route of being a lecturer, and later I saw the need to move into the industry, and then I made the move. I started with a finance house as a retail credit analyst, at the same time a business analyst. And the whole journey then was more about appraising loan applications, leveraging on data, and being able to know who can afford, what's the how do you call it now? Okay, calculating the affordability of applicants. So are they able to afford this loan? Should we give out to this amount? Will they default or not? Leveraging on data we have, as well as API available with our partners. I did that for a couple of months. Then I see the need to move into another space, which is insurance. I started in insurance as a business analyst, which is also an internal consultant role, where I help the organization to connect the traditional business to the digital business. You can't do this without data, and data is at the center of it all. I led the project where we were able to deliver a data warehouse for the organization, as well as building the first visualization. So we moved the organization from from reactive to being proactive. We never had things to fall back to before. We have to wait some days into new month before we create reports. But being more proactive, you just build visualization either using Tableau or Power BI. We leverage on Power BI in the organization and make it easier for us. What you should have been doing at the end of the month, you have it real time. So it sort of saves time. And we did that for over several units. And meanwhile, I'm working with a group, not just insurance. So we have pension business, we have earth maintenance organization business, which is HMO, we have investment, which is asset management, and we have insurance, 4 entities. So we also have data from different industry and domains as well that I work with. Because analytics is a continuum, it was time to move from descriptive, up to the point of predictive, prescriptive. Then I actually started the data science team, which today it's stable and does deliver business value to the organization. And I then moved to data management office. Basically what I do there is I oversee the activity of data science. I see data governance topics, data quality and maturity, things around master data management, reference data, a lot of other things within. This industry is evolving, is growing. So most of these roles are not yet clear, but when I get to that session, I hope I can give some clarity. So today I do that. One more thing that might not be known about me is I'm very big on community. I'm a strong advocate. And just this month, I was awarded the Microsoft Most Valuable Professional for Business Application, which further emphasized my technical contribution to the community, especially business application on Power Platform. So I hope to share as many of my experience and things that will help everyone to learn today. So thank you, Abisola.
Thank you, Olanrewaju. That was really, really useful. There's a lot that you're going to be telling us today. Hopefully we have enough time to cover it. I don't know if Dr. Dumebi is on the call. I can't see him yet. But if he's not, we're just going to continue while I try to get him on. Okay, great. So you've talked about your background, right? And the MEC was talking about getting into like business intelligence and doing data warehousing. So in real life sense, right? What does that look like? Like when you're doing a project, right? What does the data warehouse in a company, in an organization look like? Like if I was trying to get into data, right? And someone asked me like, what is a data warehouse? How would I answer?
All right, thank you for that question, Abisola. Permit me to go on a tangent really before I answer that question. So I'd like to get some feedback from people who have in the house. So okay, when you're thinking of starting a career in data, or when you saw this invite, or maybe before the few meetings you've had at WeVisualize, if you've been involved with that, WeVis, yeah. What comes to your mind? So I'll just like everyone, if you want to unmute and speak, you can. If not, just drop a chat. When you hear data, what comes to your mind? So when you're thinking, I want to go into a career in data, or I think it seems like there are a lot of jobs when it comes to data. So what comes to your mind when you hear that, or what role comes to your mind? Just drop one word, two word statements. Can we get people? Let's give feedback in the chat.
Please feel free to unmute if you'd like to speak.
Hi, MC. Grace here. Initially going into data, I just thought it was like working a lot with data, crunching numbers, putting and all that, but it's been different. So I'm just excited to hear what's going on in the real life and not just the theoretical.
All right. Thank you, Grace. Thanks for that feedback. Great. So now hold on to that data crunching. Let's get more feedback. At least one more person. If you don't want to speak, you can just drop in the chat. Yes, thank you, Zainab. Making better actionable decisions with data. Yes, data equals information. It's from Scooter. Yeah, making sense or interpreting information. Thank you. Great. Thanks for the feedback from everyone who's given it. Yes, so back to Abisala's question. So data warehousing, if you look at the words, if we even go back to the basic words that make up, that a concept, data warehousing. So we know we're talking about data, and the idea of a warehouse, when you hear warehouse, it's a place like where something is stored. But again, at least for great warehouses, it has to be properly structured. You have to, so that when you want to get out some of the things you put in there, you can easily access it. So it's not just like a data dump. You're not dumping data somewhere. So the idea of a data warehouse is to have a single point of truth for an organization. That's a single location where, when an organization, an enterprise wants to get information about what's happening within that organization, you can just go there and get it. Most businesses have different business systems that are generating data as the business is going on. So if you're an e-commerce firm, you have the systems that support the sites and capture information about maybe orders and customers. You might have a different system that you use to manage your deliveries, or whoever comes to pick up your orders and then goes to deliver it. You might have a different system. Maybe your ERP manages your suppliers, whoever you're ordering data from and everything. So if we look at those different systems on a normal day, and you just say, okay, let me just go and crunch some data and get information. That means you're going to be accessing like 3 different systems to get information. Yeah, then every time you're trying to create a report, you try to start saying, okay, how do I relate what's inside? So if I want to say, okay, this particular product that is selling so high, who is the supplier? How much are we buying that product from the supplier? How quickly are we able to get data, get products from the supplier? How long does it take to deliver and all that? Then you're looking at going across 2 different systems to get data. So what a data warehouse helps you to do is get all the data you need from the various sources, store them in a single location, achieve the relationships between the various data sets that you're pulling, and then ensure that whoever needs to consume that data, especially when it comes to executives trying to make decisions, can get the information they need in the shortest possible time. And then you start looking at, okay, being able to get, most times business intelligence is usually tied with it when you say, okay, data warehousing and business intelligence. Because in order to be able to give the business clear intelligence, you need to actually take the data out of all those sources, create a like proper warehouse, store it properly, structure it, do whatever cleaning needs to be done, and then just give the data analyst and eventually the executives ability to get the data in shortest possible time. Does that answer your question, or has it created more questions?
Okay, for me, if I was to say how I understand it, right? Just to make it simpler in case someone else had questions. For example, if I run a store on Instagram, right? or maybe I have like a storefront, right? And people are able to place their orders via that storefront. But then I have maybe I've sent them a survey somewhere else, right? And it's on some Google Sheets. And then I have like 3 different Google Sheets all over the place, right? Before I'm able to turn it into like a proper insights tool, right? To say, okay, what are my customers ordering? When last did they order? Or maybe I collected their birthday via another survey, right? So it's like merging all these Google Sheets in quotes, because they're like different tables, into one, and then using that to create like some dashboard for my business, right?
Yes, Amisola, thank you.
Okay. Does anyone, thanks, Suta, you said that was clear. Awesome. Great. Does anyone have any questions at this point? No? Okay, cool. So what the next question, what we're going to talk about is, what are the different roles, right, that exist? For example, Olanrewaju said he's had to build a data science team, right? So can you tell us, what was that journey of? How did you go through that journey? How did you hire people in the team? What different skill sets were you looking for as you were building that data science team, right? What were you looking for? What different skills were you looking for? How did you go about it? What was hiring like? Yeah, just give us the lowdown.
So like you have asked a question that requires 1 hour to answer in 30 seconds. but let me try to answer the question. So I'm going to digress a bit, and I think I'll try to do that maybe on 2 or 1 minute.
You can take like 5 to 10 minutes.
Oh, great. Thank you. So I want to say this, that like I said earlier on, that analytics is a continuum. And maybe I should explain that continuum first. There's a point where all you want to know about your business is what has happened in the past. And that's what majority of people do today. At the end of the month, you go back to your data, you try to report what is the state of the business. What you are doing right there is you are answering the question, what has happened in the past. The moment you do that, you exert a lot of pressure, a lot of effort into doing that, because at the end of the month, you make every unit to submit what has happened to you, then you put them together in visualization, in Excel or in PowerPoint, you just present what has happened in the past. It gets to some point that it starts, the question that comes up from those meetings is, why did it happen? So you knew what has happened, but can you provide the answer? Why did those things happen? So, and we are moving to diagnostics. Then trying to find out, why did this thing happen? That requires another effort, skills, maybe not significant skill, but at least another effort and time. You need to build your report on time. You need to know what happened on time so that you can find out why they happened. And if all your time are being spent on what happened, you won't have enough time to look into the data to find out why did it happen. When you are done with that, then another question that often come up is, what will happen next? So you know what happened, you've been able to answer why it happened. The next is, what will happen next? And that's the next question. Oh, can we then decide what will happen next? Can we factor in the uncertainties? And so, okay, this is going to happen next. In the next 3 months, we're going to grow the business by 200,000 customers. Wow. Okay, that sounds promising and exciting. Sometimes it might be negative. In the next 3 months, we are seeing a forecast that we are likely going to lose such a number of customers. Wow. So you have shown them the path of this, like a prophet. This is what is going to happen next. The question that comes up from there, moving to the fourth, is, how can we make it happen? Or how can we stop it from happening? I've mentioned that's the prescriptive. So I've mentioned from the descriptive to diagnostics, to predictive to prescriptive. There's a point where you want to know everything at once, and that's the cognitive part. I'm not going to go there. But from these 4, you will realize that what the business needs at every point in time changes. At some point, organization today, they might be satisfied if you're able to supply them with information that just report what is happening in the business in a way that they've not seen it before, through visualizations. Another time, some organization or at another stage will be interested in, why did it happen? Don't just show me what has happened. Yes, we know, but you should be able to provide me some insight. Why did those things happen? And at another time, we are now interested in what will happen next. Let us know so that we can plan our way to make it happen or try to avoid it. The moment you're able to tell us what will happen next, then how can we make it happen, or how can we stop it from happening? Looking at this continuum, at every point in time, there are different skills required. And in fact, it is more about skill and not about the tools you use, because today there are several tools. I am a fan of the leader in visualization. And I'm not going to say that it's Microsoft Power BI. You know, I know Abisola is like you are a master. And yeah, it is. We have the skill and we can make the end result, available, but we're using different tools. When it comes to setting up my team, I look out for some things, because every 100 to 200 years, software changes the way we work. As a matter of fact, software redefines the definition of work itself. What you do changes, and we are at the verge of another one now. We're already experiencing another one. The moment you click a button and it's building the visualization for you automatically and interpreting the results, you know that your work as a data analyst is already changing. In the past, you are the one crunching the data, but today, with a click of a button in Power BI, it can build the visualization for you and even interpret some of it. So then what do you then do? What will you say you have done? So you need to do more than that. So the work you should do as a data analyst is already changing. So these are the things that I factor in when setting up a team. I was challenged because I have to start the team from the beginning and have to look for the right set of skills. What did I look for? Because of what we are trying to deliver, I would like us to see the roles in data in another form. I've explained in terms of continuum, and I want to explain in terms of business operation. Let us see them in three forms. First, before, during, and after. What do I mean by that? I mean, before data is collected, what are the roles that we have? During the collection of data, what are the roles? And after data is collected, what are the roles? Today, I think that will help you to understand better where you fall into or where you are most interested in. Before data is collected, you have some data roles. Take, for example, the data engineers. These guys figure out how to gather and organize data. And they do a lot of data pipelines and creation. They do ETL, extract, transform, and load, or extract, load, and transform, ELT or ETL, depending on the business operation. So these are data engineers. Their goal is even before the data is collected, before you start building visualization. That's after you have the data. They build the pipelines. They are the backend. We also have the data architect. These guys are responsible for planning the architecture, or more or less the framework in which the data need to be processed and stored. And let me talk more about that. I so much appreciate that session where she explained in a relatable manner warehouse. Planning the indexing of the data. Oh, this is where we should be storing maybe our shoes, like the e-commerce store you mentioned, Abisola. This is where I'm going to place the bags there. So when people order, you know where to go to find out the data. To take the goods and supply them. The data architect plan those things. Okay, a data warehouse, this is where it should be. It should connect to different source databases. Oh, we need an MDM, a master data management. Oh, let's create one here. Data architect plans those things. How about during the course of data collection? We also have some roles there. And these roles are not common today. We call them the data stewards, the data owners. These are more or less the business people. They work with the data most of the time. They're the one even entering this data, except it's from customer end. Internal data, internal process data, they are booking the policy, their finance team, they are trying to figure, or maybe you are applying for any process within the organization. Leave is an example. For employee, you go to your HR resolution, you put in data. So you are a data subject internally. So we have data stewards, we have data owners who actually work during the course of data collection because they relate to the business. They are the middle part. And we have after the data has been collected. This is where we have the data analysts, which of course they are the explorers. I see them as people who do some form of cleaning and also still try to transform so that the data in the warehouse can still meet their needs. Sometimes age is collected in date of birth. And when you are doing your visualization, you need it as age. Are you 23 years old or are you 24? So you sort of convert it from that year to the normal numbers. So you still do some form of transformation. These are data roles, which are data analysts. And of course, the ability for you to report your findings is changing now, not just to build visualization. You should be able to report these findings. Data analysts report facts rather than uncertainties. So they don't look into things that are not certain, they look into facts, what has happened. But because the role is evolving, today you see a job role data analyst and they expect you to know how to use Python to the core, they expect you to build algorithm. You shouldn't. The business analysts are expected to learn about the data as well as interpret, connect this to business value. While we have the data scientists, you know, they do what data analyst does today. They look into data, do exploratory data analysis, but more importantly, they apply statistical techniques in order to differentiate between, is it a signal, is it noise? And one of those arguments or major favorite quotes today is that correlation does not imply causation. The fact that two things seems to be happening at the same time does not mean one is the one causing the other. Early in the morning, you know, you just see, let me cite an example. For example, the age and height. You know, at some point, you see there's a correlation between age and height, but you see some people, you know, defeating that assumption. For myself, as a case study, I'm not that tall guy, but I'm a bit older than, you know, a 10-year-old, you know, 20-year-old guy who is even taller than I. We have many instances when early in the morning, when you wake up, you know, the cock crows. Does that mean that the cock is crowing because it is morning? No, it is a correlation, but that is not the causation. We have that kind of instance, and you need to be able to differentiate that in the data. Data science does that. They apply statistical techniques to be able to differentiate. Is this just a noise? Is it just a regular happening, or is one causing the other? So that you can make the, when you are generalizing your conclusion, then it becomes valid. Otherwise, you are just reporting what is not valid and can mislead the business. We have AI engineers. These are guys, I'm using this experience based on roles that I've filled in the past and those that I've, you know, either hire people to fill and work with. So data engineers, AI engineers. These guys are more or less, we call them machine learning engineers sometimes. Beyond building machine learning models, which data scientists often does, these guys are very skillful when it comes to deploying the model. When you build model today, you most likely use Python or R or maybe big data languages, but it's not consumable yet. How can people interact with it? Where's the user? Where's the front end? Where are the frameworks you want to use to deploy it? That Flask, or you want to use Django, or you want to Fast API. You have a lot of frameworks or technology that allows you to convert that solution that a data scientist has built to something the business can interact or relate with. For me as a person, when I started building my team, I look forward to three major things. First, the technical ability. As you know, either an intern or a member of my team, you should have technical abilities in data, in Python, SQL, because you will definitely need the language to work with data. That's the English of data, SQL, and either Python or R. I'm okay, like you can write Python or R. Beyond that technical ability, you should have very good communication skill. You know, you should be able to communicate and explain things and not just be good with building a solution. And I also look at things like connection. In fact, people, and I call that networking. You know, people who have, you know, opportunity to work with me, they get to me through networking, because I look forward to that. If you are able to network a lot, then you know more about community. When you are stuck, you know where to go to, you know people you can access for knowledge, for insight, even for advice and guidance. And people like that are not always, they don't lack inspiration, they don't lack the motivation, because the moment they belong to a network, they know how to network the right set of people, they get motivated, they see things that they've not done before, people doing that kind of things. So I look forward to for these three things when I'm picking someone to join my team. And I know I've said so much, and maybe over 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm not really sure if I covered all the questions you've asked me, but I hope this question has not made people, I got people confused. Maybe I should just put it that way. So thank you, Abisola. I think I'm done.
Thank you so much. That was a very, very detailed answer. It was very useful, especially like you breaking it down into, okay, at different stages, right? Before the data, when the data is being collected, after it's being collected, what are the roles that happen in those stages? And that was really, really helpful. And thanks for sharing like what you look out for when you're hiring SQL, Python, R in some cases, and especially also communication. So it's not just being technical, right? So I think that takes me to my next question. Does anyone have a question at this point regarding like hiring? Because a couple of people have been hiring. They're like in the recruitment process, trying to get a new role, right? So does anyone have a question for Ola based on that? If you've been trying to get a new role or you just recently got a new role, do you have any questions specific?
Hello, everyone. My name is Esther Joseph. I have a question concerning the skills required, right? So someone who has taken courses in data analytics and similar courses, right? And doesn't have any hands-on experience and is trying to get hired by you, how would the person meet your criteria, considering that you want someone who already has hands-on experience on like SQL? And so that's my question basically. Is there an opportunity for people who don't have hands-on experience?
Okay, thank you, Esther. Can I speak to that, Abisola?
Yes, you can.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So let me put it this way. Thank you for that question. Maybe I should say this, which is the reality in Nigeria today. Internship is shifting. So there's a major shift in internship. You know, when you say, okay, I want to intern with you. And what is that shift? Is shifting from learning to experience. So take, for example, today, we have a lot of guys who are good and looking for opportunity. What they need is not really the learning again. Or of course, we definitely work in any job you do. What they need is to say, I have worked with these people. I have experience working on this particular project with this company or not. But some people are moving into that space, like you now, maybe you are taking courses, but you don't have the technical ability as much as is required. Okay, what I will advise is this. I have engagement with people almost every month. Sort of, okay, check them. Even though we are not working, there are things you can do. I call that project-based learning. So rather than taking courses, today I don't celebrate taking a course. I don't post the certificate taking a course. And except my Microsoft certifications that I'm a technical associate level that I often maybe share my badge on my LinkedIn. I would rather learn and outline 1, 2, 3 projects to form your portfolio that are open data online. Even some of those projects, you might have to work with 2 or 3 guys to do them, but make sure you have portfolio. So if you have 1, 2, 3 projects that are on visualization or machine learning model prediction, make sure you deliver that project end to end. Put it on GitHub. The moment you're able to do something and not just a course, have something to point to. This is what I've done. This is the skill I've learned while doing this project. You know, and when you do another one, this is the learning point for you in that other project. If you're able to document that, for sure, anyone that's, any company you apply to, and when they see that portfolio, that has demonstrated, okay, this guy has a technical capability. Because right now, when you join my team, to be honest, you will learn, but it will stress you. So if we have people, and it's always competitive. So if you are there and we go on merit base. So if you are there and if all of you had no experience, okay, we know that everybody does not have any experience. So it depends on how you're able to defend yourself. But when you are applying for internship and you only take courses and you have some guys who, yes, they've not worked, but they have competed in different makeover Mondays and they know what they've learned, what they've done. They've team up with people to maybe compete in hackathon on Kaggle or on different data science platform, Analytic VDR, or even Zindi Africa. And either they came last or they came first, at least they have their learning point and their positions. If you are matched with that kind of person, definitely an organization will go for that one because they know this guy, even though hasn't worked somewhere, but have demonstrated his own skill through the projects he or she has worked on in the past. So I will always encourage that. Take for yourself like 3 months, give yourself 3 months, pick 1, 2, 3 projects. When you go to Kaggle, you will see a lot of them, open projects. Download the data, try them out, publish it on your GitHub, go to LinkedIn, publish and hashtag people that you want to see what you are doing. and I believe that makes you competitive.
If I may just add,
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted you to add
what Ola has said. I just wanted to say that again, you know, he's not saying you can't take the courses, but even as you are taking each course, you tie it to a particular project. So don't just don't just consume the course, but, you know, have a clear output from, you know, what you're learning. Take those skills that you're learning, apply it to a clear project that you can use to demonstrate your skill. And that actually ties to, you know, a role I actually got someone for last year. So it was beyond the interview, beyond, okay, you coming to say the things, you know, we actually did, you know, an actual like role, sorry, excuse me. We had the person try to create, it was a very short project, but create something hands-on. And that's how you're able to demonstrate value. So it goes beyond you using words to say, okay, I know this. It goes beyond the theory to being able to demonstrate the value. So I think that speaks to what Ola has said.
Okay, so basically, it's not just about doing the certifications. You need to have like a project that you've done, at least, even if it's not 2 or 3, but you must have something that you've done and you've applied what you're learning to, pretty much. Does anyone have another question regarding hiring or trying to get a role or get started? Okay, then there was a question for Yemisi. Oluwayemisi says, from your experience as a data architect and data engineer in building a data warehouse for business from scratch, what option will you advise to explore, either the ELT or ETL?
All right, thank you, Oluwayemisi. So frankly, business is shifting. So previously it used to majorly be ETL. And you being able to do ETL means that the business is most likely very static. You know all your sources up front. You're able to identify all the changes that you need to make, you know, all the transform, because, okay, ETL means extract, transform, and load. So extract is you're getting data from all your sources. If we use the example that Bisola said of your IG page, you have your 3 Google Sheets, you're able to access that and get data from that. Or if you're in an enterprise scenario, you have the databases for all the systems you want to access. You're able to pull data from all of those sources. So that's what the E stands for. That's the extract. Then transform is of course, you most likely will not be able to use the data in the format that you are pulling it from, because each of the sources, each of the systems are storing the data in the way they need it to deliver the functionality of the application that they are on, not the way that you need it to be able to report. So the transformation covers that. And then you now load into a final table or a final database which feeds your reporting systems, which you can visualize on. But now things are changing because, one, business is very fluid. Some businesses have, you know, additional sources coming on, or maybe a particular transformation it doesn't cut it. There needs to be a different way of doing it. So, and then again, there are more tools now that support you being able to do ELT. There are more tools that support you being able to just pull your data. So for example, Microsoft, if you look at the Microsoft Azure, what it offers, you could actually just pull your data from all the sources, store on the Azure data lake, where you can store both structured and unstructured data, just pull it in there. And then you can now define your business rules, which will form the transformation layer at the top. And looking at the available resources, all the transformation can be done very quickly. So one of the reasons why previously you want to do your transformation before loading into, so I can see Dewale's hand up. Let me just finish. Yes, so one of the reasons why you want to do a transformation is it takes time. So you want to do the processing so that reporting can be very fast. But there are tools now that you can do your processing even on the fly very fast before you pull it into your visualization. So it depends on the data, on the organization, but I just wanted to take that more and more you're able to use the ELT route than what we could do previously in the traditional data warehousing process. Opeyemi, does that answer your question?
Can you hear me? Opeyemi,
Yes,
does that answer your question? I don't know if Opeyemi is on. You can unmute
okay,
to
so
speak.
I can see he has posted something, says he's on transit and he can't talk.
Okay, okay.
Well, I don't know if it's he or she, don't let me assume. But yeah, the person is in transit and can't talk, but he has a follow-up question. But maybe we should, let me just, Adewale, I hope you don't mind. Let's close that out before because I don't know if Adewale's question is very different from that. Okay, so follow-up question, the design and managing implementation of the data warehouse. What's the workflow like you mentioned? Yeah, okay, from start to execution. So I think I've spoken to that, but basically at the very beginning, you would want to start with your business's requirements. So if it's a business that has been existing for a while, you would know the reports that are statutory. What does management usually want to see? What are the reports that have been prepared often within the business? Usually I say if you prepare a particular report more than twice, that means you need to automate that process. That's what I always say to everyone. So you would look at those business requirements. You could have workshops with your various business teams to try and identify, what kind of data do they want to see? Because really, you wouldn't want to go through the whole process of building something and then nobody's using it. So you need as much feedback from the business as possible. And then you could now layer that on what's the available data within the organization, looking at the various sources, what are the business systems. So once you identify that, then you'd have an idea what you need to do to get from your sources. So you've identified your sources, you have your requirements of what the business needs to see. Then you start, trying to build your processing layer, which is the ELT or ETL as we've described. And then at the end of that is where you'd have your visualization. And one of the major things why I always say actually that data warehousing or some sort of building data mats or data preparation in one way or the other can never be taken out of places. Even in a scenario where you want to do some data science tasks, it will most likely sit on, the endpoint of your data warehousing, or at least some sort of preparation of that data, or even if it's you've extracted it and then you've loaded it into your data lake, because you definitely cannot go directly to the sources to start doing your data science tasks. And most times when I see people trying to learn data science, the focus is on most times prepared data. You have Excel sheets, you are trying to do your predictions and all. And that's good, to even learn that the particular data science process. But beyond that, most times I would always recommend to you people should now, look at how to source data, which speaks to what Ola said about, on having, SQL knowledge and all. Look at how to source your data, look at how to do some transformations, because in the long run, you want to automate the process. You cannot go into production with your model picking from an Excel sheet. Definitely, you need to be able to build that pipeline, unless you're working in an organization, that has, separate teams, that has a team that does your data engineering, and then you are just connecting and doing the data science end. So I think that should have covered Opeyemi's question. Okay, also asking how long it takes to complete a data warehouse project. It depends on the scope. It totally depends on the scope of the project. It depends on the data the organization has and all. It's important to be agile so that it doesn't drag too long before you start delivering value to the organization. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Oluwayemisi. That was really, really helpful. Like lots of context. I feel like we need another workshop, like more hands-on, like data warehouse 101. Maybe we'll put you in for that.
No problem.
Okay. Great. So, Okoyemi, I think you should be able to reach out to Yemisi personally. So Adewale had a question, and then Chidima has a question. So Adewale, do you want to ask your question? Do you want to voice out your question, or do you want to type it here? Can you hear me, Adewale? If not, Chidima, you can go ahead with your question.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I have a question with regards to, I know Olanrewaju had touched on it. It's with respect to having a project portfolio. And then he also mentioned we using Kaggle and all that to get our data set. Now, in a case where I want to show proof beforehand that I have good SQL experiences, but then you know that Kaggle and others already gives you like your data set in Excel or CSV format. How do I show proof to people that I have good SQL performance? Is it that I'll just write queries and then push to GitHub? Or how is it done? I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Thanks.
Okay, well, what a nice question. Thank you, Chidima. So I was once in your show, and this led me earlier this year to start my YouTube channel. And on that channel, I focus on three things: analytics, automation, and productivity. On the analytics part, I know a lot of people, when they learn Power BI today or visualization today, you learn it through Excel. You connect to an Excel file, just import Excel data and then do what you want to do. And that misses out something, which is the SQL skill. How do I prove to people that I have SQL skills? So when I started this series working with Adventure Work database. So Adventure Work is a publicly available database. In fact, there's a business, is a fictitious business from Microsoft. And just the way Microsoft use Contoso is just a fictitious business name, and they wrap a lot of business use cases around Contoso, same way we have for AdventureWorks. I will try to share that link to that playlist on my YouTube channel, where I showed how you can install SQL Server engine, install SQL Server Management Studio on your system, and restore the AdventureWorks database, which is several years, is a very huge database. And if you can work with AdventureWorks, learn query, how you can demonstrate that skill is, I think, mostly through visualization. If you're able to build Power BI, either Power BI or Tableau reports, build it on top of AdventureWorks database, depending on what the kind of visualization you're able to build from that database, it shows that you've been able to write some level of SQL. Take, for example, some of those data requires you to write query to join, merge, and do some crazy visualization that you won't be able to achieve out of the box by just dragging and dropping data source. No, you must have been able to bring some tables together before you can achieve that form of visualization. That can be a way for you to demonstrate that skill. And people might not know. So how do you let people know? When you build on top of that database and you do a screenshot in case you don't have Power BI service to publish to cloud when people can see, it's easier for you to put the screenshot and explain how you do it. Say in this business use case, I work with AdventureWorks database. This is the business, and this is what I did. Before I could pull the data to maybe Power BI or whatever tool you are using, and these are the challenges that I face, and this is the way I try to work around the challenge to be able to deliver the visualization in this form. When I read through that and I see what you did, I know that this guy knows how to work with database, and definitely you know how to use SQL. That could be one of the ways to that's one of the things I would recommend, the approach I would recommend you should use.
Oh, thank you. That was really good. Thank you.
Yemisi, do you want to add to that? Anything to add to that?
Well, the only other thing, so I think Ola has covered like the majority of it. Once you do the practice, you look for a way to get the word out there about what you're doing, maybe posts on LinkedIn, just explaining, okay, this is what I'm working on. But the second part is the portfolio gets you a foot in the door. You might not be able to put everything that you know how to do, on GitHub or in a portfolio, but when the one-on-one discussion starts, you will definitely come through whether you know how to use SQL and all that or not.
Awesome, thank you. David, I think you had a question. Do you want to ask now, if you're there? Okay, great. I don't think David is here at the moment. Awesome. I mean,
if we lose Adewale, I know Adewale has had his
right.
hand
Adewale had his hand up. Adewale, are you there? I think we lost him. He's not online at the moment. Maybe when he joins again. Okay, I mean, we've talked a lot about like the different roles. Is that Adewale? Or did someone have a question?
No, it's David.
Okay, David, do you want to go ahead with your question?
Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to ask, we have things like Makeover Monday for Tableau. Probably you can also use it for Power BI. So I just wanted to ask, do you have something for something of such for like SQL that you can use to practice, have like real life experience, kind of thing?
So I know of, I think I can't find the link, but I know of 100 days of SQLs, things like that, where you answer a particular question. There's a lady that's in charge. If I can get the name on LinkedIn, I'll share with you, or the hashtag. You can easily look for that. So there are several questions to answer, and from simple to complex. All you just have to do is go back to SQL and write that, and if you can achieve that, you see how she's also able to solve it. So if you are able to go with that learning path as well, it could be one of those things you can use as evidence of you learning for completing that 100 days or 30 days, no matter the number of days of SQL.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. The 100 days of SQL content. Oh, also Zainab shares in the comment. She says follow Danny Ma on LinkedIn for SQL content. Awesome. Okay, great. Before Adewale comes back, so we've talked about like the different roles, right? What you're looking for when you're hiring, right? How to like present yourself. But I also want to talk about like what kind of projects have you done like in real life in your proper, because I mean, for example, what we're talking about fictitious projects and all of that. But in real life, like when I get into data or a role in data as a data analyst, what kind of projects do you expect or should I expect to see? For example, Yemisi has worked in telecoms, in e-commerce, right? And now in a company that manages like aviation, edtech, right? Adewale has insurance, asset management. Do you get? What kind of projects do you actually do? If you can share maybe 2 projects each that you've done that has helped like the business, do you understand? Either help them continue something or start something or help them make a business decision. You don't have to go into details, I guess, for confidentiality, but maybe if you can just give us like a brief summary, that would be helpful.
Thank you. Maybe I should go first. There's this interesting project. I'll just call it is a common project, but it has narrowed down use cases. Yeah, I've called this one customer segmentation. Today, customer need is changing and customer dynamics is changing. At times, we benchmark customer categories of segmentation based on industry standard. Or this is what report from PwC has, this is what Deloitte has released, and or this is a major industry classification of customers, middle income, high earners, and the rest. But your own customers, do you know them? And these customers are changing in purchasing power, in strength. They are changing every day. The dynamics is changing. So one of the things we're able to do on that particular project was understanding how these customer dynamics change. They move across, and we leverage on one of those common model, which is called RFM. RFM model is recency, frequency, and monetary value of the customer. So when you combine these and using some form of unsupervised machine learning, which is classification, we're able to use unsupervised machine learning to segment the customers. And these segments were based on the insight discovered from the internal customer, not industry analysis. And the advantage about this particular project was that it's machine learning driven. So it is not a static value. The moment this customer is showing another trait, the customer is also moving across. You will see that that particular customer has moved from one segment to another because the customer is actually moving across those radar. So the project was very helpful because for you to be customer centric, you must truly know your customer for who they are and not just what the industry takes them to be. Know them for who they are, and you're able to personalize your service to them. Until you know them, you can't personalize your service. So the project was very helpful. Other ones, which the e-commerce sector actually work on so much is recommendation engine. When you come in, like organization like us, if you're a customer of AXA, Nigeria, where I work, is a global firm, but within Nigeria, we have 3 entities now: the health and investment. If you have any product with us, when you log into a dashboard, you will see there will be recommended products for you, which are cross-selling and upselling. Maybe I should also mention this rather before I wrap that up. The objective of leveraging on advanced analytics for business centers around 3 things. First, are you able to use this skill to reduce cost for the organization? So you can take up projects that actually reduce cost. Second one, can you help the organization to increase revenue? Like the recommendation engine is helping to increase revenue, because the moment you're able to upsell or cross-sell, organization can make more money than when that thing is not even there. The third one is, are you able to leverage on these for optimizing business process? Do you want to make the business more optimal? That value is well felt by the internal customers most of the time, because what it takes them longer time to do, you'll be able to, shorten that time by bringing in your solution in one way or the other in the course of the process. So, like I explained, I've mentioned 2 projects. One is understanding your customer better and personalizing product based on that. Even when you're engaging them on phone, customer is calling or is email, you're able to see those insights. Oh, this is the kind of customer. So you don't treat them like they are just same customer. You treat them, you personalize the greetings, you personalize the engagement, and you can even bring in the recommendation solution alongside that same experience. When you know who this customer is, you're also seeing the product the customer has bought. You are seeing, okay, this is the product, this solution is recommended for this customer. After that engagement, you can discuss, are you aware of this particular product? I've seen that you are interested in this. You might also be interested in that one. And even if the customer is not buying at that moment, you have created product awareness, or the customer is now aware that, okay, you actually have that product. And one day, that might be the beginning, that might be the seed that will lead to that conversion. So, I hope I'm able to speak to one or 2 things.
Yes, that was really, really helpful. Recommendation engines, customer segmentation. Yemisi, do you want to share with us some projects that you've done? Because this is similar to John's question. John says, I would like to know of interesting ways the panelists have used analytics to solve business problems. So Yemisi, you can share yours.
Okay, thank you, Abisala. So again, I'll just spotlight a couple, but as we've discussed, generally when you work on building like a proper data structure for the organization, you enable a whole lot of analytics that could not be done previously. But speaking to specific ones, for example, we did an analytics that was based on how long it took a product to sell out. So that's looking at, okay, on an average, especially for the products that are moving fast, you could look at how quickly does it, on an average, how many do we sell per day? And that helps the organization and it helps the buyers to be able to plan, okay, how often do we need to restock this product? And as a result of that, they actually had to pay like a minimum reorder level for those high ticket products, so that, okay, once it gets to 30, we know that we have to reorder, so that we're sure that we don't get to the point where you have customers who would like to buy that product, but the product is not available. And another interesting one was using a churn, that's predicting churn for customers. So we're able to say, okay, in the next 30 to 60 days, these are customers who are likely to churn. And on the basis of that, the organization was able to engage those customers more, reach out, probably like, do SMS blasts. You can get maybe offer freebies that would, enable those customers to come back and to reactivate. And that speaks to one of the possible ways of segmenting customers, looking at active and inactive customers. So you don't allow the customer to just go totally cold. Once you see that they're not hot anymore, they start getting warm, then you reach out to them and offer some freebies. It depends on the organization, but in this case, we offer freebies to enable the customers to reconnect.
Okay, that's very helpful, and it gives like a lot of context into like what a day in your life looks like. So for example, what does a day in your life look like as a data architect?
Oh, as a data architect is actually very interesting, because right now my role cuts across several. So one of the things is my organization is building a data product, and that's actually why this was very interesting to me. So it's gone beyond using products that exist to answer business problems, to actually now bringing, the experience you have from having used various data products to bear in building that product. So we have like a performance management product that we're building, and it's actually, but it's more of a B2B product. So we're selling to some other businesses that they can use like a performance and KPI management product. So one of the things I do presently is overseeing that product and like ensuring that it actually meets the business needs and all. And beyond that, I also oversee our analytics and data science areas. So I'm touching base with our data scientists on various models. So recently, we were working on a payment propensity model for one of our in-house organizations. So looking at their own customers and looking at the likelihood that they were going to pay across various channels that they obtain leads. So I oversee that. And then going directly to analytics. So one of the major things we're doing presently, it's a project that has been ongoing for a while, but it's still running, is a digital transformation project. So aside from having systems that generate their own data automatically, a lot of times the business has processes that run manually. Someone somewhere is sending an email, someone is filling a form and going to give it to somebody to sign. And most times all those processes like fly under the radar and the business is not really aware of what's going on with those processes. So one of the things we're doing is digitalizing those processes, and using the Microsoft Power Platform actually makes that very easy, because it's a very low code way of, I can see Ola is smiling. It's a very low code way of creating applications that you can use to capture data. So one of the interesting things I actually would love to speak to in this meeting is to not just think about using data at the end, but think about the end-to-end data lifecycle, understanding how is this data created. So my business is not just give me the data and then I predict or I model for you. As Ola says, a lot of things are changing. Some tools now can create visualizations. Power BI can even give you some analysis based on the visual, some explanation of what your data is saying. So we need to go beyond that to look at, okay, what is the origin of this data? How are we capturing it? Are we capturing it in the best possible way? So one of the things we're doing with the tools is to try and capture the data as close as possible as to the origin as that data is being created, capturing it and then storing it properly. That way you reduce data quality issues down the line. And then we're now working with our analysts in-house to create visualizations for the business and for the executives. Again, reducing touch points, ensuring that enabling self-service. If I want to get data, I can just go direct and obtain that data. I don't have to talk to somebody who has to go and prepare data on Excel before I can see what's going on within the business.
Yeah, and someone doesn't come to you every day to say, please help me pull months to days.
That's it. Once you do that more than twice, you need to automate that process. As a data person, your job is not just visualization. As much as possible, push to eliminate manual processes along those ways. It's a major for me.
Awesome. Great. Ola, do you want to tell us what a day in your life looks like as well? Then from there, we're going to go to what growth looks like, because you guys have grown from like different roles. You've gone from business analyst to data engineering to data architect. Ola has gone from business analyst as well to like leading a data science team. So you tell us what a day looks like in your life, and then you tell us what does growth look like as well.
Okay. Thank you. Honestly, I think Yemisi just explained my typical day, because by title, like I said the other time, the role is changing. So you can have a data architect as a title, you can have data analyst as a title, but what you are doing is maybe the same in some instances. So for me, where my office title is actually the Ed Data Management Office. So even though I have moved from data science, but what do I do typically every day? So we have BAU activities, which are business as usual, and we also have project-based activities. On project-based activities, I'm leading a data architecture project, which sort of redefining a scalable architecture measures, touching base with some of the traditional business that we run. The second one is data science. I oversee, just like Oluwayemisi said, if you are a data architect or you are head of data management office, you sort of oversee the data activities, both the analysts and data scientists. So I manage the project I do. I give technical direction. I don't write the codes again today, but I give technical direction. There's a new project. I sort of draw the architecture, what are the service components? It's going to be deployed on-prem or deploy on cloud like Azure. Okay, what are the service components that we need? So before you build a project, you must know end to end, what are the components, how is it going to be consumed, and what's the average number of consumers that inform the infrastructure you are putting in place. I do those kind of solution architecturing for data projects, not web and application development projects. So we call them, I think that's data architecture actually. So I do that as well for any AI or advanced analytics project. For data analysts, I manages, in terms of BAU, I manages the data stewards and data owners. So let me put it to us this way. In the early part of 2020, there was a report that the world has generated 32 yottabytes of data. Yottabyte is a bigger storage of measurement. After you move from megabyte, gigabyte, terabyte, petabyte, you then move to yottabyte before you get to zettabyte. Sorry, I'm just mentioning bytes. So, but yottabyte is something very, very big and large. So the world generated about 32 yottabytes of data in early part of 2020. And of these 32 yottabytes, only 11 yottabytes has been analyzed. And so insight has been generated from 11 yottabytes, leaving us with a data gap of 21 yottabytes. So there are a lot of gap a lot of data that's not even been touched to analyze and to dive deep into bringing inside that business. I believe the world transformation, the next big business still lies there. The answer to them lies in that data that is yet to be analyzed. Now, the challenge here is this. Number one, why do we have this gap? It could be because we don't have sufficient data skills. The data is growing at an exponential rate and the analysts are growing at arithmetic rate. So we don't have enough people and enough time to go into this data analysis. That is one valid reasons. But the second one is this, the form through which the data have been generated. And that speaks grossly to what Oluwayemisi mentioned, which makes me really laugh, is if you generate data in a way, in a format that does not make them available for analysis, then becomes a problem. You've generated data, but it is not easily integrated into a solution or a process that people can then analyze. Manual processes in organizations today, things as simple as go to an office, you are filling a logbook. That logbook is a hard copy book. You fill it every day, sign in, sign out, and you fill that book repeatedly, and you have a lot of copies. For years, that's how you do it. If you go back to history, you might not be able to find those logbook again. Some of them are torn, burnt, lost, incomplete. And you can't analyze that data until you digitize it first. And this is where the Power Platform comes in, driving that transformation, where every data point, because all these business activities are data points. There are some requests you collect via email, but you can't account for them. You can't track them. You can't, use it to plan your day. But if you have a platform as simple as form, you submit the request on form, you move it to SharePoint list, you have a mini workbench for yourself on SharePoint list, and you can see all the reports there. You can change the status to in progress or completed, and they get notified, leveraging on Power Platform tools. That data is already in digital form. Clicking a button, connecting Power BI to it or Tableau to it, you can visualize and say, this is what I'm doing. This is how much I've completed. So that is also another thing that we also drive, because we understand how data flows in the organization. We try to find a way to help people to digitize those data so that we can leverage on it for more insight. So I also drive those kind of activity, which I call automation initiatives across the organization. There are also things around.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
No, you wanted to say something.
Yes, there are things around data quality and maturity. In fact, if you are paying attention, because everything is about data. We're in the business of data. The day you don't have access to that data, or the day your customer says, what's my account balance, and the person is getting 1 million naira, when the person has 15,000 naira, and you are telling the person again that it is not 1 million naira, there's trust issue there. So there's a reason why, there's a need why organizations need to pay attention to data quality and data maturity. In quality, you monitor a lot of indices, correctness, promptness, accuracy. You want to be sure that those data are actually reliable. We also have the data maturity, which is a continuum. You want to be sure, okay, at what stage is my data mature to perform one form of analysis or the other? If you go to some organizations today, they don't know that data maturity stage. So everybody just singing the song, AI, data science, but are they mature? Is their process, is their data mature to benefit or to leverage on that? Are there things they need to do before that time? So we have the continuum, and we have a set of action points we do every time to be sure that we move ourselves across this maturity level, up to the point where we can be very dependent on, okay, run anything on this data here, we are sure that it's 100% reliable. So we commit effort into that. There are also things like data improvement initiatives, working with the data owners and data stewards, who are especially data stewards. Data stewards are more people with data skills. They relate to the business, e.g. the data analysts now, they have some spare time, they move with the business, schedule meeting with them. Are you having any issue? Are you having any pinpoint, doing your use of data on a day-to-day basis? So those guys can say, yes, some data that I pulled are not correct, or we then look into it. Why is it not correct? Okay, that's one thing. Or, I used to do a lot of manual transformation on Excel before I can start reporting on my data. Why are you doing that? So they look into that and try to improve, either to cut those processes or help you find a way to make it better for you. And that's called data improvement initiative. Often come up maybe once in a month. So it's not a regular thing, but it's once in a month we do that. Let me stop here. Typically, I do meetings as well. When a new project is coming up from IT, you definitely have different components of that project. There's one which has to be data components. If you are building a new platform, there's a data element. So instead of you waiting and transforming your data after the wrong data has been taken into the system, why not go from the scratch? So while they're building the solution, we validate that the data schema, database architecture written out, designed for that solution is fit. And we have data policies to check against, okay, this feed should not be able to take this. Are we sure that you have enforced that integrity on that data feed? And once we check, everything is valid, then we are sure that a feed that should take date of birth is not taking in. And when we validate that, then the project can move on. So we also do those kind of, actually, there are a lot of things, and everything is growing every day. So I can keep talking like this because that's so it's.
Thank you so much. Like I agree that there's so much that goes into it, but if we keep talking about everything, we're not going to leave here today. But yeah, I was curious about growth though. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, Abisola, I can hear you.
If you can quickly, like in 2 minutes each, because I don't want to keep you past the time that we've planned, which is 1:30, right? What does growth look like? For example, how did you go from business analyst to data engineering? Like, does that mean at different points did you have to upskill? How did you upskill to like be able to move into that new role? Let me see.
All right. Thank you for the question, Abisola. So again, like I said, I think it's very important for growth not to restrict yourself to just one end. You need to understand the data life cycle and then be able to offer value at every point along that life cycle. So yes, I might start off with learning data science. Do you understand? But I can't just stick with that. I need to understand, okay, how is this data sourced? What happens, along the process? What do I need? What are the skills I need in order to actually be able to source data in case you're in an environment where your data is not prepared for you? So in terms of growth for myself, yes, I started as a business analyst on a data warehousing project, but I got interested in there, and thankfully my role at that point was very fluid. I could now go on to start working on the actual data, learning SQL. But it goes beyond, and I always tell people, it goes beyond the particular tool that you're using. You just need to understand the concept and understand how data works. At the recent meeting we had for data analysts across our various SBUs, we were discussing this, and I was like, the way you think about data, it goes beyond work. You now even apply it to your entire work. I had an interaction with one of my ISPs that I use for internet recently, and then in my head I was thinking about how they could have used data to improve that process. So it's just thinking about the end-to-end process of the data that you're interacting with. I think that's one of the things that would majorly, help you to grow. And then, thankfully, the internet is there. You can look at the various tools. You can look at jobs you aspire to and look at, okay, what are the requirements in this area? And then start upskilling yourself. And then even within your organization, if nothing is being done around that, you look for a use case or a business case, you push it out, think, okay, we're not doing this at present, but I think it's a way we can add value. And by doing that, you're able to get real life experience, you're able to grow yourself such that when opportunities now come, you take advantage of them. So you have to grow with skill-wise, you have to grow in terms of value that you can add in order to now be able to grow career-wise.
And I think my next question is, did you have to go to get a second degree, or did you just learn everything by yourself?
Well, I learned everything by myself. The second degree I have is an MBA, so it's not in data. And then again, technology changes very quickly. How many degrees are you going to get? How many times are you going to go back to school? So we just need to be able to continually grow. Okay, someone is asking how to transition from business analyst to being a data engineer. So even as a business analyst, you have a great advantage because you're understanding the business process. And every business process generates data, whether it's actually captured or not. So you can start from that aspect. As you are interacting with business processes, try to look at what's the data that those processes are generating, and then how is the business using that data? Then you can now say, okay, how can I improve this process using that data? What can we do faster? How can we, even as much as looking at approvals, looking at something as basic as approvals, for example, how long does it take to get approvals in this case? Is there a way we can improve it? What can be done? And the interesting thing with data right now even is, yes, there are people who would require core data skills, especially when it comes to building data platforms and all. But the way the world is going, in every area of business, in every area of work, you can actually apply data to improve what you're doing. So as a business analyst, just stop using more data. When you're speaking to the organization, you don't just speak, pull in data, use data to back up whatever it is you're trying to say, demonstrate that to the business. And then you could also now start looking at skills. So we've mentioned SQL. SQL is a very basic skill when it comes to data engineering because it cuts across most systems that you're going to need to interact with. And then SQL also helps you to understand data structures a lot. You understand relationships within data structures and everything. So that if you learn SQL, if you can interact with a table, you can understand APIs, you can understand the structures that data within an API comes from, you can understand. So that's one of the basic things I would recommend if you're trying to transition into a data engineer. And then you can look at other tools, Python and other tools that are used more. Thank you.
Okay, great. John, I hope that answered your question about transitioning. I hope John is there. He said, okay, yes, he did. Okay, guys. Thank you so much. This has been really, really useful. I don't know if Ola just wanted to add one more thing on growth, and then we can just round up if anyone does not have any more questions. Yemisi, we're bringing you back for a data warehouse 101. Just So I'm doing it.
No problem.
And then, okay, someone had a question about what it takes to become a power, I don't remember, an MVP in Power Platform. If you can quickly tell us about that in like 2 minutes, Ola.
Okay, maybe I should start with that. Right. So before you can become a Microsoft most valuable professional, actually all over the world, I think we have 3,226 MVPs all over the world, and there are about 11 domains. So the business application is a domain where you use Power Platform, like Power Automate, Power Apps, and Power Virtual Agent. We have the Office app, which deals with Office 365 application. We have some in Azure, we have some in AI, we have some in data platform, different platforms. But what Microsoft often look out for is community activities, community contribution. In what way and manner are you helping the technical community to grow in that particular domain? For example, I have a lot of shows that are organized where I teach people on Power Platform. I have YouTube channel where I release a lot of resources on Power Platform. I feature to speak in engagement on Power Platform. I organize, Microsoft affiliated trainings and maybe events like the Power Platform Bootcamp is a yearly one. I'm part of the moderator and organizer in Nigeria. This kind of community activity is selfless. You don't get paid for them. But this is the way Microsoft often say thank you for contributing to that technical community. So, and you must have done that for over a year before you can be qualified for an MVP. And you should be nominated by an MVP. So an MVP has to nominate you before you can be considered even for an MVP. One thing I would like to say is your desire should be to learn and teach others to learn. And if you are desiring to do that and you are following that path, you see that you don't get weak or you don't get discouraged because nobody is paying you. No. But you are doing it and deriving satisfaction by helping others. It's selfless. And that MVP will come on its own. That shouldn't be the target. So if all you are looking after is the MVP, you may not go far on that journey. And actually, it's renewed every year. So next year, after 1 year, they will evaluate what have you done? Have you been able to add and contribute to the community after in the last 365 days, and they get renewed for you. We have people that have been MVP for 16 years, 20, even up to 17 years consecutively. And those kind of people motivate us. When you see them, they live to teach others. And so for myself, it's a long life commitment of co-learning, co-sharing, and co-building. So when I teach, I learn twice. So teaching means learning twice for me. So, and that for me is learning. So I don't see like I'm the one teaching you this. No, I'm also learning what I'm teaching. So I'm learning is a lifelong journey for me to keep learning, to keep building with others, and to keep sharing with others. So I would say that's just one or two things I would like to say around the MVP.
Yeah, I think he asked as well about Tableau Zen Master. Honestly, it's the same thing. There are three things: being a master, a teacher, and a collaborator. Master is having like good mastery of how the software works, which is Tableau, right? Teaching is that you also help other people get started, right? And I mean, WeVisualize is how I do like that as well. And then collaborating is like collaborating with other people in the community. Just like Ola has said, those three things: master, help other people, and then collaborate with other people in the community. And you also get nominated as well. So you don't apply to become a Tableau Zen Master. You become nominated, and I think it's renewed yearly. So this is my second year. Yeah. The few questions. Abraham had a question that's very specific about machine learning models. What pointers show the need to update a machine learning model in production? And how do you ensure that your analytics model isn't biased, undersampled, or doesn't overgeneralize? I don't know if anyone wants to take that in like 1 minute because we've run out of time.
Let me just try to answer this in 1 minute. So first, the question is also how often do you update machine learning models? So you must have a pipeline. Some models, okay. So if it depends on how you are deploying your model. If you are deploying on-premise, the technology you often choose is Docker. If Docker is what you use, and if you have a data pipeline, meaning you have the ingestion part already, and automatically when you register or when you have a new customer, data flows in and go through the model. The customer consume the output, either internal or external. If you have that kind of pipeline end to end, then you just monitor the performance of the model. automatically it should be updating. If you have the pipeline, you can create a pipeline where the model is retraining and when there is a new data. But in most instances, if you are deploying on-prem, you don't have that infrastructure to have an end-to-end solution. So we often say every month, at the end of the month, we will spool the data, the most recent data, add it to the existing data, retrain the model, and deploy again. Sometimes you carry out what we call A and B testing. So you can deploy two models, and the new one and the former one, to be sure that, okay, the new model is outperforming the previous one before you can just drop it. Because you have new data set does not mean it's still better than the previous model. So you need to be sure and have that kind of A and B testing where you have two API, and whenever a request is being made, there's a load balancer that sort of distributes. One is going to this side and the other is going to the previous model, and you can check the performance. When it comes to biases, so there's is a major concern, which is called ethical model. How do you build an ethical solution that is not biased? And a lot of organizations are pushing funds into that area. But one thing we do from our end is building an explainable solution. We call it explainable AI. So there are some algorithms we use. We must make sure that those algorithms are explainable. Some algorithm is you can't explain what's happening at the back, which is the black box. But whatsoever model we build, we already have frameworks for explaining your model. So when we build the model, we go back and apply that framework, and sort of brings a lot of insight, ways to interpret the data for business owners, and assumptions you should not even make. So don't just interpret the data in this manner and think that, okay, because this is the output and this data is explainable. No. So when we apply that approach, we look for the best of those approaches and apply them. Then we are like, okay, if there's something we need to do, maybe a lot of confusion is in this model, let's go back and update something. There's data imbalances, we go back again. But it's still a very top topic where people are pushing funds and so we want to understand better how can we explain our solution and make it more ethical.
Thank you so much. I hope that answered your question, Abraham. I think we're done. We've gone through all the questions. I'm sure like you guys will be happy, Yemisi and Ola, for people to connect with you on LinkedIn. Is that okay? Because I'm sure people still have like more in-depth questions.
Sure, that's fine. That's fine.
John, we're going to bring back physical meetups, maybe in September. Yeah, I really want to bring those back as well. Thank you so much. Like this has been really knowledgeable, Yemisi and Ola. This has been really helpful. I'm sure like you can see the comments as well. People really appreciate the knowledge that you shared. So I'm going to stop recording very soon, but I just wanted to tell everyone you can follow us at we_visualize. Let me just share my screen on Twitter, right? And we're going to post the link to the recording on our Twitter page. So feel free to follow us. Feel free to share like anything you've learned today. You know, everything is all about sharing and community. So let more people know about what you've learned as well. You get. That's really just it for today. If you have any questions, you can direct it to Yemisi or Ola, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well, Abisola Oni. That will be all. Thank you so much. This has been really useful.
All right. Thank you.